Hi, Steph.
Hi, Tree. Great to be here.
Oh my gosh, it's super. We were just talking right before I hit record about how excited we both are. And it's like, no, really, like I call it my sandbox because it really is kind of like a sandbox. So let me do this. I cannot possibly do your bio justice. And so I'm going to tee you up and then you're going to correct me. I hope. I know for sure you went. So you're the girls and boys swimming coach at Ann Arbor Pioneer in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and our paths crossed. I worked with your high school athletic department coaching staff, and we've since done some other things and whatnot. So, um, but what I know for sure is that you went 7 years on both sides, the boys and the girls, without losing any time, losing any match, including the state title in Class A, biggest class in Michigan. But I think that there's more. I know that I feel like you lost once maybe this year,
Yeah.
but you still won. Did you win the state championship still?
We didn't win the state championship. We won everything leading up to it. So
Wow.
we've gone 7 years on both sides in our regular season, not losing anything. But with the girls, we've won five in a row, and with the boys, we won four in a row.
That is that's an incredible like I just want people to think how many a year, how many competitions a year do you estimate?
Um, we probably have like 15, 15 or 16 a season. And yeah, and so I think it is and I think what makes me even more proud than the winning and the losing record is that we watch everyone in the state. We watch what they're doing. I go to meets, I look up meets, I look at results. And so often teams just kind of mail in their performances because they can. And we can. I mean, we can we can mail in our performances. And what makes me so proud is that in those 7 years, we never mailed one in. Like we always had a focus, we always had a goal, we always had, I mean, there were teams where my team is 55 women strong, and we would swim a team with six girls on the team. And you don't want to destroy them, but you also want to respect the competition, and you also want to get something out of it, and you want them to get something out of it. And so like those are the competitions where I'm the most proud of, where we still go for it, and I think that's something I'm really proud of.
In other words, like, so what I hear is from that, what I'm taking from that is like you're trying to, and I think this is a something that coaches often talk about, but it's hard to get on a consistent basis. You're trying to reach potential. You're not just trying to win on the scoreboard. You're trying to literally reach potential every single time your swimmers show up at the blocks, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we always talk about our standards, and we have our optimal line, our optimal standard, and our goal throughout the season is to get as close to that line every single time as possible. Like someone time will be a little above. Sometimes we'll have to train through competitions and we see how close we can get to it, even though we're dead tired. I made a mistake last year. We opened up the season and we did this retreat on Belle Isle. I found out like none of my kids had been to Belle Isle, and none of them had
Really?
driven through Detroit. Yes, I'm like, let's go. So we have two buses because we're 55 people, and I'm like on one bus with the microphone, like giving a tour of, this is the island that the same guy that did Central Park, did develop this island, and I'm giving the tour. And then we do a retreat right in the middle of Belle Isle. We have this humongous lunch, and then we go swim like the third best team in the state. And we are tired, sunburned, and full. And I look at my assistants, I'm like, okay, this may not have been the best idea ever, but it was like, again, like, see, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Like, can we win on our worst day? Can we have all these obstacles in our way and still manage to get through it, and
Yeah.
we are fairly dominant in the state. We with the girls, we have not lost a single meet in 6 years, I guess. And so, not getting complacent and not being, just kind of letting our guard down and not like keeping, not losing focus or not letting our eye off the ball. Like that is a daily challenge for me as a coach.
Yeah, because okay, so there's so many threads to pull on, but I want to start here because I think this would be super helpful for coaches. Okay, you talked about that line. How do you I don't know, quantify is the right word, but how do you communicate? How do you articulate and draw the picture for this is our line? And how do you get your swimmers to understand like this is where we're attaining in a way that doesn't make them, we talk about risk aversion and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, as we go on, something that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, just the heaviness of the pressure of that kind of a legacy. How do you first establish that line, and then how do you help everybody that touches the program carry that in a graceful way?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, swimming is so quantitative, right? It's not subjective. You dive in the water, you swim your event, you get a time. Not only do you get a time, but you get splits. So whether strategically you're starting to master that race. We have relays where the goal is always, when you swim for your team and you swim for each other, your time is faster than anything you would ever do for yourself. So we have, those are sort of the standards. How close can you get to your personal best? We have, state qualification times. And then we've got a huge board on our pool deck that has our conference and state. What was 16th? What was 8th? What was first? What was 16th? What was 8th? And what was the winning time in the state? And we have that up from the beginning, first day of the season. So where you need to be and what your goal is. For some, it might be just making it back the next day for our championship finals. For some, it might be winning. For some, it might be the record, and so we have that all there. And I think, individually, it's to be as close to your best as possible, but then collectively is, how do we, step by step, use these competitions to prepare ourselves for championship season. And I think the second part of your question is so interesting too, about the people surrounding your program. I was just lucky enough, one of my good friends is Bob Bowman, who is Michael Phelps's coach. And I just got to spend, last month, I got to spend a week with him at his new program at the University of Texas. And I said to him, I'm like, this was sort of his dream position. And he was like one of the first coaches, I think he won it at Arizona State 2 years ago. And then came to, they hired him at Texas, and he won the next year at Texas.
That's incredible.
So, I mean, he's the best coach in the world right now. But I thought what was so interesting when I said, like, what is the difference here? Because he's coached at Michigan, he's coached at ASU, where he won a championship, and now he's at Texas. And he said, from the janitor to the guy who cleans the pool, to our trainers, to the nutritionist, to the weight room, everyone has one common goal. And that is to make each athlete the absolute best, and for you to show up at your absolute best every day, ready to kind of be at the very highest level that you can possibly be. And I traveled a lot with Bob. We were on the national team together when I was a manager. And, what I loved there was everyone was there just to be a service to whoever needed it. And my favorite thing is when someone asked you to do something, or you asked someone to do something, they would say, of course. Like, not like, okay, or I'll get to it. It was like, of course. how can I help you? How well can I do it for you? How quickly can I do it for you? And just everyone just doing their absolute best is just so inspiring to be around.
And this is a man who was a huge part of the development of one of the most prolific swimmers in
The
the
part.
world ever.
Michael will tell you he was the reason. I mean, Michael had all the tools and the vessel and the
Yeah.
talent, and I don't think there was another coach that was going to bring it out of Michael like Bob did. And I actually got to watch that. I was with them at Michigan the 4 years prior to Beijing, so I saw that development, and it was amazing.
That's what a wow. I'm speechless. So, okay, let's go back now and talk about, you talked about an exercise, and I don't know where this was, so fill in the blanks for me, when
Uh-huh.
you sat your team down early on, and you might do this every year, but you sat them down, you had them close their eyes, you taught you kind of gave them some words, and they were a little bit afraid of the weight of the tradition of the program. Can you
Yeah,
sort of kind of paint what that looks like, that exercise for coaches, but
sure.
also talk about how it interacted and how you use some of your judgment to kind of bring that
Yeah.
along?
Yeah, so this was a particular year where we had lost a lot of talent the year before, and it was sort of the year before. It was sort of a no brainer. We were going to win the state championship. It was just a matter of how much and how good was everyone. How well was everyone going to perform, and so we lost a lot of that. And so coming into the season, it was even a heavier weight because now people that hadn't been really relevant and hadn't been big point scorers were going to be asked to step up. And so that was a really heavy burden for a lot of our athletes. And so we did one of these, we do a little retreat before every season. And we were, so what I had this vision that I wanted them to choose like 8 to 10 words that kind of exemplified how we were going to go about each day. Like, what were the important things we wanted to hit each day? And I had it in my mind what I wanted it to be like. But I also know they had some worries and again had this burden. And so I sat them in a circle and I had this list of probably 30 words. And what I asked them to do was when I called out a word and it resonated with them and they felt a connection to that word and they felt that was meaningful to them, I asked them to raise their hand. And I asked them to close their eyes because I didn't want them to be affected by, oh, my best friend just raised her hand, I need to
Yeah.
support her, all of that kind of thing. And because I knew that some of these words would be heavy for them. And so, I started off with, bravery and connection and community and we got to tradition and ooh, out of like the 50 hands, I had like maybe 9 and it was the strongest swimmers that were confident, like, yes, we can do this, right? And that mid-level that was going to need to step into those shoes, nothing. And I'm like, oh, great. you know, you guys connect with that one, right? So at the
You,
end of the
you flat out just lied.
exercise, yeah, just plain said, we're gonna have to
Looks
meet this
good.
on. Yeah, I know you don't want to, challenge yourself with this right now, and it seems too scary. We're gonna hit it right on, right from the first day. So then what we did is we got out of the circle. I had the 8 to 10 words and we went into small groups. I tried to make sure there was, a freshman and an upperclassman and a couple in between. And each group was in charge of the word and what that was going to look like each day. Walking into the pool, how did that word, how would that challenge them? How would that motivate them to set the standard for that particular skill or characteristic? And I mean, I was blown away. I sent it to you. I was so proud of that. And I go to, different collegiate programs and I show them that. And, and I let them know that, it was 14 to 17-year-old, young women that put that together, they're pretty blown away, because I think they really get the essence of it. They're getting that word. Yes, it has some inspiration, but it's also going to be a challenge daily, and they're going to have to hold each other accountable daily to making sure they do that. And so, yeah, that was one of my favorite things that we did. And we had a big poster made out of it, and it was on the pool deck right along with those times.
So, okay, there's so many, oh gosh, and it's so good. I added it to the course that you're a part of the
I
online
saw that. I'm
club.
like, oh, a swimming one. And I go to it. I'm like, hey, that's us.
I told you I was going to add it because it was so good. And I love what I want to do is go back and like kind of like work out and paint, how that looked. Maybe we'll just add this little clip to that even. But okay, so you said something that I want to talk about with you and kind of pick your brain about, because I think that you said hold each other accountable too. And I'm constantly talking about this idea of accountability, right? Especially among the modern athlete that we're coaching now, because I think there's such a confusion. And I think when you say it and how it looks in your program where you've sustained so much excellence is probably different than people think. And the way that I've been saying this, and please push back if it doesn't resonate with you, but I feel like when so often, maybe not in your program, but so often when I say, or when I hear coaches say like hold each other accountable, when I ask student athletes what they think that means, to them it means yell at my teammates. And I just think what I'm trying to get teams to understand is no. When we do this right, we are accountable to each other. And it doesn't mean that I'm not going to, hey, call you up if you're bumping up against a guardrail, but it's not like I'm constantly playing gotcha, right? Can you just kind of pull on that thread and talk about what you think of that and how it looks?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, part of the reason why our athletes do so well is because honestly, we are our best competition. So again, we're pretty dominant in the state. When we go to a competition and we go to one of those smaller teams, we are really competing against each other. And our team has really, like the first couple years I was there, it was like walking on eggshells. No one wanted to, push the apple cart, and no one wanted to kind of push the boundaries of maybe this person's going to get mad at me or I'm going to ruffle some feathers. And to see now where we are, and I would say my current teams are so brutally honest with each other. I don't know. I've never been a part of anything like that before, even collegiately.
That's really hard. That's so
It
hard.
is really hard, and they know it's almost like an expectation now. If you're not pushing me, you don't think enough of me, or you're not putting enough
Yes.
stock in me. I can do it. So it's almost like a badge of courage if our athletes, tell each other, it's like I'm okay with you being better than me. Number one, like I'm okay if this makes you better than me, because you being better is going to help all of us. And so I think I mentioned last time, like I think this year's thing is going to be like iron sharpens iron, because I mean, we are going to hit that daily in practice. Like there are going to be some battles in practice that are going to be great. And I just love the fact that we could have these freshmen come in that could bump these seniors off of relays. We get one relay at state meet and we could qualify four, and
Wow.
we only get one. So there's only four out of our state team that get to be on a relay, and it is fierce competition. But I will tell you, when those really great freshmen come in, those seniors don't care. They're like, we need the best 4 people. And if you are that person, then I'm going to help you be better. And that has just come around in probably the last 2 or 3 years. I almost see that as like the final piece of being just
Yeah.
such a functional team, because it's heartfelt. Like, it's in there. It's not like this is the right thing to do. Coach says
I
this. It's
guess. Right.
not like that. It's really authentic and genuine. Like, we need to be the absolute best we can be.
That is rare, rare air. And you're right. And I'm talking of even very, very high level
Yeah.
college athlete, especially in this climate. We are primed, and the parenting cohort that is kind of coming through. They are priming their kids unintentionally to be
Yeah.
very me first and
Yeah.
me centric, and
Yeah.
especially in a sport like swimming. So that is
Yeah. And the parents
incredible.
are not there. The parents are not there.
So
The
how
athletes
do you
are.
okay? How do you work, because they're not spending. That's a really strong cultural pull, and that's the beauty of having a very, that's why I love leaning into culture and group
Yeah.
collective dynamics, because it's powerful. And so that you got the group there is great, but they go home then, and their parents are not, they're not in that on that swim deck all the time, right? So
Yeah.
how do you prime or frame it for your swimmers so that it doesn't get derailed by that
Yeah.
loud parental voice?
Yeah. The beauty of this is I probably spend more time with them during season than their teachers and their parents. We're together 20 hours a week, right? We have morning practices. We have afternoon practices. We have competitions. So, like, I'm the dominant force, and them being together is really the that's where they spend most of their time. So it's a little bit easier when that's drilled into you 20 hours a week from all sides, from the coaches and from your teammates and the captains and all of that. When you go home, it's almost like, no, that's not how we do it. I've had parents like hand me, like, stats and graphs and all. I'm like, no, thank you. We've got this. Yeah, it's a lot harder for the parents because I'm not in their ear, and I'm not, guiding and explaining this to them as we are our athletes. And there's something also when you come in, there's so often we'll have freshmen come in, and the rap on them is, oh, they're in it for themselves, or, you're going to have an issue here, right? And they come in and they don't want to be left behind. They don't want to be, the person that sticks out or have a red flag attached. And they just assimilate
Yep.
so beautifully into, like, these are the expectations. This is how we do it,
I I think you're not giving the culture you've created enough credit for that. And that's a pattern of really high achievers for sure. But like the power of social conformity is very big, right? And your culture, and moreover, I will say this. I think that there's this, you have to balance this tension. I think that hard fast rules, we talk about this, we've talked about this before, that where you're playing gotcha and you're like, if you don't do this and you don't get to swim, that's crazy. Like, I want to win, so I'm not going to put myself in that position, right? But I do think there has to be structure that is non-negotiable. And what I know from working with you just a little bit is that there are non-negotiables that I don't care what's on the line. They know that they are going to be held to this standard. And if they step outside of this, there's no question. There will be repercussions if you willfully go beyond this border. And that actually encourages strong culture. It doesn't, I talk about psychological safety a lot, and it doesn't mean we're not going to have punitive measures taken when they're deserved. Actually, those punitive measures, those consequences actually communicate psychological safety because they know exactly what to expect. Can you
Absolutely.
can you talk about that? And because I think that's why what you're describing is true.
Yeah. And it's funny because so often they'll ask me and I will tell them, nope, you guys figure it out. Figure it out. Tell me what you're going to do. Come back to me. 9 out of 10 times, it's more than what I would do. They're trying to make sure that it's the highest
Yeah.
standard. And what they agree on is, I'm like, oh, all right, even better than what I would have suggested, And so, figure it out is a big line we have in our program. Figure it
Love
out.
that.
Yeah. It actually comes from a good friend of mine who coached Cal. She coached Missy Franklin and Natalie Coughlin and all these. Was the first Olympic coach that was a woman.
Oh, wow.
Terry McKeever at Cal. And the first couple weeks of her season, her entire coaching staff just wears a shirt that says FIO. Figure it out. We're not going to answer the questions for you. You guys are going to figure it out for yourselves. You can ask each other. You can, whatever it is, but you're going to figure it out. Like, we're not going to micromanage you. Here is what the vision looks like. This is what we're after. Now figure it out. And so it's amazing how few rules we actually have, because they self-govern themselves. And again, like, their standards are so much higher. And I think a lot of it comes from, they just really want to please me, and they want to please each other. They want to be seen as, a great teammate and a helpful teammate and a tough teammate. Like, that's what they want. That's genuinely what they're after.
That's incredible. I want to go back to, is it Bill Bowman?
Bob Bowman.
Bob Bowman. Sorry. It's a legend and I should know his name. When we're talking about that showing up for each other, you've heard me say, like, I think how we treat each other is everything. And I'm pulling that actually from the Navy SEALs. And I feel like that, in a lonely, low trusting time societally, that's not a small thing, right? And so can you just talk about, like, okay, I got to pause first and bring up something that we should have talked about in your bio. You actually, the reason I wanted to have this sandbox session with you, and why I love, anytime we get to interact, is because you have sustained and are sustaining a level of excellence that is admirable. I love watching people like Tom Brady. Whatever you think of his team when he was playing, there was a level of excellence that was just like, whoa. Michael Phelps, of course, is another one. Like, all of that, when you see that level of sustained excellence like you're achieving, I think that it's really cool. And you're doing it from a position where you're never going to swim a race, right? And so I think that's even cooler. But that showing up for each other in this particular time is no small thing. And I think you getting to be in proximity to these great things and people and teams is huge. I will say to everybody, can you just tell us about this? Just recently, within the last month, you've gotten to go up with, talk about level of excellence, the Blue Angels, like the ones that you've all heard about, the Blue Angels. Like, yeah, holy crap. Can you, because there's a level of excellence there. There is a theme in your life, I'm noticing. Talk about that, and talk about it in regards to showing up for each other, level of all that.
Yeah. Such an honor, number one. I mean, I think when I was first chosen, I didn't realize, how few people actually get to do this and to experience it. I did get to ride in an F-18 and do all the maneuvers that they do in their air shows.
Were they in tight formation?
Well, it was just, so they've got 6 planes, and then number 7 is for the community influencer flights. So okay. It'll have, so when we went up, it was just us.
Okay.
So there weren't any other planes around. Yes. And
because that would be terrifying.
It would be, but here's the thing, Tree. It was so funny because, I have to be vetted by the U.S. Navy. I had to be cleared by the surgeon, the flight surgeon. I had, physicals and stuff like that. And I didn't realize that people say no to this. Like, they asked me and I said yes. And they're like, do you want to think about it? And I said no. And he said, well, do you have any fears? And I said, yes, flying and heights. And he's like, are you sure you want to do this? And I said, I'm going to do it. I'll come around to, and here's the thing. I was all I didn't want was like for me to like panic, right? I was like, you're going to go up, and I just don't want to panic. I'm going to tell you, my heart rate was probably as steady as it is right now. I was not afraid or fearful or anxious for 1 second. And the only reason that was is because from the minute I arrived at the airstrip until I left, it is such a high performance environment, and it is precise, and it is exact, and it is respectful, and it is no detail is too small to, like it's everything that is just so near and dear to me, um and so for me to experience just a little part of that as in the pre-flight, and I got to do it with Alex DeBrincat from the Red Wings, which was awesome too. So we're like looking at each other in pre-flight when they're talking about, in case we have to eject, make sure you do this and avoid power lines. And we're looking at each other like, are we going to remember all of this? I hope we remember all this. But it was just like, it's amazing how calm and in what good hands I felt I was.
This is huge. This is so good. Tell me, okay, you've seen me do the video breakdown of This Is Me, right? And
Yes.
talk about why
Yes.
the signals that they're sending, right? So you just described you felt pretty psychologically safe in a pretty threatening environment, right? So can you just think back and just think about from the time you arrived until you went up, what were some of the actual like specific little signals that were probably just ubiquitously around you that you don't always notice it? But can we just think back and tell me some of the things that they did, said, looked like that made you feel, because you're describing a culture that is intentional about psychological safety. For sure you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What I love again is that each member of the team, and there is a crew chief that is in charge of the plane and setting it up for the pilot, right? So this pilot normally would do all of these things. That's what pilots do when they fly their own plane. But they don't have the time to do that before these air shows. And so a crew chief does that all for them. You can imagine how much that pilot has to trust that crew chief to do everything to make sure that that plane is ready for them. So just that. I need to back up because I had the opportunity to do this 3 years ago and the hydraulics didn't work. And so I wasn't able to go up. So they let me do this again 3 years later. And they knew that I had been in the plane ready to take off and it didn't work. When I got in the plane this time, again, they couldn't get one of the engines to start. And so they tried it like 2 times and it didn't work. And I could see everyone just like the blood drain because they thought she's not going to be able to do it again. Right. And I saw this young woman who was the crew chief and she knew the story. And so she kept like panic ridden eyes looking at the pilot. And he said, you know what to do. I'm going to listen to you. Right. It was clear to me that she was younger and less experienced, but he was letting her do her job. He said, you tell me what I need to do. And she's like, I'm going to try it for the 3rd time and we're going to get it to work. And he's like, okay. Like that had such impact on me because he could have just told her what to do. And he's like, this is you're going to tell me what I need to do and you're going to tell me what you need to do, like type of thing. And I was just like blown away. And like again, no one wanted to disappoint anyone. Everyone wanted to be at their absolute best. And like, I remember I didn't even really see it because I'm, in a helmet and under the canopy and everything. But they said that each time, they were trying to start the engine, she would have to sprint out to a certain section. And like, she would do it perfectly each each time, So it's like even the way they exit the plane, and then they presented me with this, big, actually, I have it right behind me, this big plaque and picture from the Blue Angels. Like the way they presented it to me, like it was like we were, at a state dinner, like, and we were the heads of state. And this is just how they operate. It's something I try to explain to my kids. You've got a choice every time you do something, whether you want to do it below average, you want to do it like everyone else does it, or you want to do it to the highest absolute standard that you can do it, right? For me, and when you start doing it, it's the same energy, right? It's like it's the same. You just have to set your mind to the fact that you're just going to do it this way, and every single thing they do is just perfection.
So when you pull up, somebody greets you, right?
Yeah.
That's a pretty normal average interaction, right? Can you talk to me about who that was, what they said, how they approached even the welcoming you to the airstrip?
Yeah. So again, it was the crew chief that they introduced themselves, and they're also making me feel, like these hometown hero, like, you are special. You're able to do this, and we are going to make sure we make this the
Wow.
absolute best experience for you, and meanwhile, I'm like, thank you for your service, and thank you,
Can I get an
and it's
autograph?
like,
Like, right.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically like a mutual admiration society. We're just going back and forth. But again, it's just like the tiniest details, in 7 minutes, we'll be taking you to this room for your pre-flight thing. Just always like expectations. Here's what we will be doing. Here's what you need to prepare for. And just, from top to bottom, just an incredible
That's
experience. I still haven't watched the full video. Like I have a snippet that I put on Instagram, which was me taking off. And I think we're only at 5 Gs at that point, which I can't even describe what Gs feel like because you don't really know they exist. I don't go on roller coasters. I'm too afraid to go on roller coasters. So I don't go on roller coasters. So I don't know what 1 G feels like, but now I know what 5, 6, and 7 feel like. I
and
did pass.
basically a G is just like your body weight. It's like 5 of your body weight, right? Like the
Yeah.
pressure. Okay.
So yeah, so it feels like you're getting just blown back, you know. I did pass out at 7.5. I tried so hard. The Lions
So
special team coach did not pass out. And I was like, oh, like rats. But a lot of pilots do the first time when they're in that centrifuge thing. So I didn't feel too bad, but I was so jealous of that.
how long were you out when you passed out?
40. Oh, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing it was only like 15 or 20 seconds.
That's
But I haven't watched the full video. I got sick during the flight as well. Like, and I just remember this was also a really great point that the pilot said he clearly knew I was in distress. Like, it's just, the first time we go up, we invert where, I'm hanging from all of the seat belts, and we go back and then we're doing the G's and we're going straight up, straight down. Like, and my stomach, I never even thought of this. I thought my heart was going to be racing, but my stomach was not good. And he's like, okay, we're going to do this. And I said, I just need one moment to like collect myself. And he's like, listen, coach, I don't want you to get mad at me, but I'm going to push you a little bit because you're not going to get up here again. And I want you to have the full experience. And I said, I appreciate that. I'm in. Like, whatever I will figure it out. I will make sure I'm okay to do all of this. So yeah, it wasn't easy. And then when we landed, there were like, I don't know, 7 or 8 cameras and reporters that wanted to talk to me, and all I wanted to do was throw up. Like, I just kept it together. When I finished with them, I went inside and I lost it.
that's
So
unbelievable. I'm just so I remember when you told me, I was like, wait, have you watched like, cause
Yeah,
I love documentaries and whatever. And I think I shamed you into watching it before.
yeah, I did
Um,
watch it.
that's, you said something there and you didn't say the actual phrase, but you described it. And it's something that you say is very true in your program. And it's one of the norms. How we do anything is how we do everything. And it
Absolutely.
so sounds like that is the level of excellence there. Talk about how your like, do your swimmers say this a lot, or is this just you kind of looking for opportunities to be like, yo,
They say it all the time.
really?
If I need to remind them about something, they will go, "Yes, how you do anything is how you do everything." Or if they see something, or if I point something out, they'll know it. It is a phrase we use daily. And again, it's one of those things, like Bob said at Texas. There is no detail small enough that is not somehow going to snowball into something that's important for your program. It's just, again, like, the vision, purpose, mission. I kind of reflected after that part of the course, and really what our vision is to create this environment where you know you do your best in every single thing. And when you do that, you kind of create an environment where inevitably you're going to succeed. You can't help it, because human nature, again, is to be average or a little below average. Like, our brain does not want to be stressed out, right? We don't want to hold our breath. We don't want to be in pain. We don't want lactate building up in our, like, all of this is not normal, right? Getting up at 5 in the morning, before school, the train before you even go to school, like, those things are not normal. And we do acknowledge that, we do let them know that this is something special that they're doing, and they get to do it together. But again, it's like every single thing, how you leave the weight room, how you leave your weights, how you leave your equipment bag. Like, do you throw your wrapper out after you've had your snack? Like, just making sure that you are doing things at your highest level. Like that, I want kids leaving my program where they don't even think twice about that. That is how they operate.
And how do you, so I think that sometimes when coaches are trying to go for that, they end up highlighting all of the shortcomings and nagging their players or swimmers or whatever. I don't get that sense from you. How have you established that in a way that doesn't feel really gross and off-putting to your swimmers?
Yeah, and I think it is kind of connecting the dots. It's not just pick up the wrapper because I don't like the wrapper there.
That's
It's
so good.
pick
This
up
is
the
good.
wrapper because this is our home. This is our environment. This is where we're trying to create something special, and a wrapper doesn't belong there. Like, at the beginning, we do a pretty good job at connecting those things. Being 1 minute late is not a big deal if it happens once. But if everyone's 1 minute late, or if you're 1 minute late continuously, or I don't know where you are for that 1 minute, um, you're telling me something about our mission and our purpose and what it means to you. So I I think that once they understand, and it takes time. I have a microphone during our practices, and it's like a 2 hour monologue. I'm constantly telling them why they're doing what they're doing, and it's like on the first day, the championships, I don't know, maybe 110 days away, right? It just seems so far. Like, what we do today does not matter in 110 days. And my job is to make those 110 days seem like it's tomorrow,
Oh God,
like a
that's so
sense
good.
of urgency right from the start.
That is that is gold. It's your job to make those 110 days seem like it's tomorrow. That's exactly it. I mean, it's being really clear about the vision. You're not talking about winning.
We never talk about winning. We never, we've won now 9 out of 10. Um,
State
I've
championships.
never state championships. I've never said the words, we need to win a state championship. Our goal is to win a state championship. We're going to win a state. I've never even said it. We never talk about it. Even at our meeting before we win a state championship, we don't talk about winning a state championship because the winning the state championship is not the thing. It's doing the things that you need to do in order to win the state championship, right? So we talk about the things you need to do to win the state championship, you know?
Yeah, I say all the time, and your sport is a pretty data driven, right? Like it's just numbers, not just numbers, but there's a lot of
Sure.
quantifiable things. And I say it all the time, like the scoreboard is a data board. It's not. It's just literally, it's telling you how you did your process. That's
It's
it.
information. It's
Yep, it's
information.
information. I love that. Oh God, it's so good. Okay, if you want to, I would love to go down, kind of in conclusion here, down the road of just, if you want to talk about the weight that stretch of success had on you, to the point where do you want to talk about this a little bit?
Absolutely.
Oh, great.
Absolutely.
This will
Because
help so many
it's
coaches, I feel like.
it really will. And I mean, even my athletes won't know that this is what I feel, you know? It'll just probably make me a tiny bit more human.
I'll set it up this way. I don't, I get emails from coaches a lot, or texts from coaches, whatever. And, usually it's like celebrating it. Hey, we did the thing, and we did and in this, this last season, I got an email from you, kind of celebrating the fact that you didn't win, and you were still thriving and as a person in life. And I chuckled. I was so like, yeah, baby, let's go. Give everybody the backstory why that was so significant.
Yeah. So, when I started here at Pioneer, the women's team, I think we were 27th in the state, right? And then, we kind of worked our way, and then maybe 2 years later, we were seventh in the state, and then a year or two later, we lost the state title by a half a point. I
Oof.
mean, people didn't even know you could lose by a half a point, but when you tie, you combine the scores and then divide them in half. So you get a half a point. And we lost by one half of a point. And the funny thing is like the parents looked at our team from the top, and we never thought we could get within a half a point. We had all swam just lights out. B, they loved being together. C, it was almost like no one told Pioneer that they lost by a half a point, because you couldn't tell by how we acted on, the pool deck. And people would come up to me and they're like, we're so sorry. And I'm like, I'm not. Like, sorry about what? That we, came a half a point from being the best team in the state. And even when we lost this past year, we were second and it was close. We just didn't have enough. So, so once we started winning, it does become an expectation. It's not this, you know, um, you know, grand culmination of the season and wow, we did it. And it's this, my assistant usually with one event to go starts breaking down next year's team. And he'll be like, here's what we're losing. We haven't even won this one yet. And he's on to the next one, right? And so the more you win, the bigger this weight gets. And so not this year, but last year, I wasn't sure we were going to be able to do it either. We were going to have a pretty special year. And all year, I'm just like feeling this weight. And then when I saw you at Pioneer, I mentioned it and you're like, okay, we should probably, do this exercise just together one-on-one. And I mean, when we did it, I mean, I was bawling. And I got to tell you, it was like therapy for me because since then, it's not a big deal. Like, it is not a big deal. Like, did I like losing? Nope. I didn't like it one bit. But was my life exactly the same the next day? Absolutely. And so for me, it was really freeing and kind of liberating. And it's so great that we did it the year before. So I actually got to enjoy this year and enjoy that championship. And, the only thing my van talked about on the way home was getting back there. And it was so exciting because the climb to the top is so much more fun than than fighting everybody off that mountain every year that's coming for you. You're the one with the bullseye on the back, and it's not as much fun as attacking someone or, trying to get up that mountain. And so it was really exciting for me to know that all those boys were talking about, they were fine, and all they wanted to talk about was, this is how we're going to come back next year.
Yeah, it's so interesting, the perspective, because that was intense. We had a couple of maybe 2 weeks. It didn't take a long time. It was just like,
Yeah.
hey, there's a boulder here. Let's kind of have you go through some questions. And you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very emotional, but and it just was so gratifying. And then you won, and I was like, awesome. But remember that. And then when I finally got that email that you didn't, I was like, that's fantastic, and just to see that, I love it so much, because I think that you can only carry that weight for so long. And we put that on us. Like,
yes. It's self-imposed, and
totally.
And it is, it was interesting with the quadrants, like, how does success, look like? How are you judged? And when you start winning, the litmus test is, did you win? Right? For everyone else, it's like, how did you do? And did you do best times? And did you move up a place? Like, when you're on top and you're winning year after year, it's, did you win or wah, wah, like.
Yeah, it's a thing. Okay. So this just prompted me to think about, I don't want to like let you go before I ask you this, because I'm trying to find it. I know that I heard it a long time ago, but then you reminded me of it. And I think there is something to be said. We're both Lions fans, correct?
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
And we saw them in that 3-13-1 year. We saw them get to a place where they they finally figured out how to win, right?
Yeah.
And you talked about a podcast, and it was talking about an experiment with the mice. Can you just share that with coaches? Because I need to find it, because there's science behind this, and I've seen it anecdotally a million times.
Yeah, I do think I heard it on the Andrew Huberman podcast. And it's just a really simple experiment. It is one of those habit trail, hamster tubes. It has an opening on both sides, and they will put 2 mice in there. And they're looking to see which mouse is going to shove the other mouse out. And so they put the 2 mice in, and one mouse shoves the other mouse out. The interesting thing is, when they go on, the winning mouse, the mouse that shoved the other mouse out, goes on to win, and the losing mouse keeps going on to lose, right? And so they wanted to figure out why this was. And so the next experiment, they had actually the handlers shove one of the mice, and help him push the other mouse out. Same thing happened. That mouse went on to keep winning. And so what they figured out was, it's a dopamine hit for that mouse, right? That mouse wins and moves the other mouse out, and they get a little hit of dopamine, and they want that hit again. The mouse that got pushed out never got that dopamine hit. He doesn't even know what he's missing, right? And so he doesn't know that's what he's going after. The interesting point is when they slowed the whole thing down to see what the difference was at that initial moment, what made the winning mouse is that winning mouse never retreated. They only moved forward. So at that moment when they have to decide, one never moved back or stood still, and one of them did. And so, like, one of the ways that we like to promote failure and risk in our program is, what's next? Like, don't get hung up on what just happened. what is your next move? Like, how are you going to move forward? And so I think that's really important now when, not doing your best time or not winning a race or not meeting a challenge is so difficult. Having that winning mouse mentality is, what is your next step? Move forward. Don't stay still and don't move back. You've got to continue to move forward. So, yeah, I think that's great. And it's funny, we made these pennants for our locker room. I didn't even know. The girls did it all on their own one day at someone else's house. They made these beautiful felt pennants. And they had all of our slogans, how you do everything is how you do anything. One of them was quinoa, which is the word that we say when people are being negative and they don't want to address it. One person will yell quinoa, and that means like, shut the negative energy off. That's our magic word. And one of them was hashtag winning mouse. And that's probably the thing my kids bring up more than anything else, is that winning mouse experiment, because that really resonates with
Oh
them.
gosh, I love it. This is going to help so many people. I have one more question. So you're an excellent coach, and that's not just me, like, giving you compliments. You're really high level, and yet you still chose to. And you've heard me speak a bunch of times. We've worked together one on one. I've worked with it, and you still made the decision to invest in yourself and jump on the online platform, that the team culture platform that
Absolutely.
can you, and this seems to be the pattern that I find. Usually it's the coaches who are most capable, who are the ones that are plugging into this type of programming. But what could you possibly be getting from this? Like, can you just explain to coaches who are just desperate to want to win? Can you connect those dots for them? Because I think that it says so much about you as a leader and as coach that you're investing your time in that right now and really contributing to it.
Yeah, I just don't want to miss anything, and through this course it gives you so many great nuggets of, like, how to handle a situation, or what type of activity you can do to promote a certain response that you're looking for. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to something because I feel like curiosity is my biggest asset that I have, because they're going to talk about culture, and the only thing they talk about is how important it is. And I'm like, I get that. Like, but
I'm in.
there is no one besides, the Ledbetters and the Becky Burleys and all of that, and you, that I have found actually gives you daily daily suggestions on what you can do to build up, the connection and the sense of purpose, and the sense of, how to operate daily at a high level. Yeah, I mean, I'm going, not only am I taking the course, I'm going to retake the course now with a notebook and actually write down all of the things that I'm going to use this year.
Oh,
Right. So it's truly phenomenal, Tree. It really is. And I think it's one of those things that you don't know until you have it. You don't know how important it is and how easy it can make your job and how enjoyable. I mean, I am going into this season. I cannot wait. Like, I can't wait to get to them, and
oh.
they can't wait to get to us. And so, like, I don't want to disappoint them. I want to have something new. I want to have them think of things in a different way. I want to just keep evolving and developing, so that they remain, like, excited, just genuinely excited to be together and to want to work, for each other.
Oh, that is so helpful. And I gotta tell you, I invite you anytime you're like, hey, like you gave me the a couple of tips earlier, like, hey, what if we had like a playbook or whatever? Like, I love having coaches like you interacting with it and giving me feedback on it, because I'm literally building it as it's going. Once it's
Yeah.
built, I can go back and refine and we can
Yeah.
keep making it better. But your voice is very, very valued in that space, I gotta tell you. But just hearing you, I think it's a really hard time to coach right now for a lot of people. And to hear how excited you are and to see your passion come through. You know, after you've done a whole bunch of things and you've coached for a long time and you're feeling like this, that is what I want for everybody. Cause for me, that's winning deep. Right.
Yeah.
And like at the end of the day, boy, if we could all feel like that, it
Yeah.
like after you've done all you've done, it's like,
Yeah. This is the 35th year, and I don't think I've ever been
wow,
more excited for a season. You know, and
that's
this is me. I've been coaching all summer. Like I haven't had a day off in, I don't know, maybe 42 days, 43 days, and I'm a little tired of like practices. I can't wait for my team to come together.
oh,
Like I can't wait for that first day.
that is that is amazing.
Yeah.
I just want for all coaches, any coach who watches this, it like good on you for finding it because this was a huge like just wisdom drop throughout. So I just wanted to thank you for doing this with me.
Yeah, my pleasure. You are someone that I respect immensely. You're doing
That
it
you
the
are.
right way, and I'm gonna keep doing anything I can because it's making me better.
Oh, thanks for saying that.
Yeah.